Okay.
We can get the bandwidth for this tonight. Oh, really? It's working?
Okay.
Impressive. Okay.
Time out there. I got, in mind, I got motion and voting sheets. Did the clerk have that?
I don't know.
Yeah, okay, Representative O'Hearn is, I think, here, but I don't know, he's just getting out of work, I think, but,
I'm here, John.
oh, you are here, okay, I just wanted to be sure, Representative. All right, okay,
So, Mr. Chair, we are ready to roll.
ready to go, okay. Let's begin. I will call this meeting of the Sullivan County Delegation to order. And I would like to begin by Representative Rollins. Would you mind leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, republic for which it stands, nation under God, indivisible, with liberty for all.
For all. Thank you. Thank you, Representative Rollins. Okay, as I said, tonight we're going to have this meeting, and the main purpose of this meeting is to have a public hearing on proposed renovations to the nursing home, as well as the sober housing Sullivan House project, and take care of a few other some other leases as well. So I would like to open on the agenda. Okay, first of all, if we could do a roll call of delegates, please. Representative O'Hearn, can you do that? Representative O'Hearn?
I knew you had a feeling. That's why I was trying to look up the roster
Okay.
in the meantime. So I don't have it in front of me. So, but I'm gonna try to do it from
Okay.
memory.
All right, I didn't get it to you until about 15, 20 minutes ago, but I did send you over an email with an attached list.
Okay, hold on a second. Let me look.
This is Sharon Callum, and just a note, there are motion sheets, rosters, all online on the OneDrive, along with any handouts.
All right, okay, all right. Thank you for that reminder.
I haven't found it, but I'm gonna just again try it from memory. And I
Okay,
apologize for the order if I forget somebody too.
okay, yeah,
So, we'll start off with let's see here, Representative Sullivan,
I am here and accounted for.
Representative Oxenham,
Present. I'm alone in my home. office.
Representative Merchant,
I am here alone in the house, alone in the room, but my wife's in the house.
Representative Tanner,
Good evening. I'm here in Georges Mills with my rescue dog Raven, who may bark from time to time.
Representative Gottlieb,
Here by myself.
Representative, yeah, the ones in the room. That's I don't know who's in the room, so sorry about that.
Representative Judy Aaron, if I give you a hand.
Okay, Judy Aaron,
Aaron is here in the probate room.
Representative O'Hearn, you want me to read, because I got the list in front of me? Would it be easier?
if you could finish it, thank you.
Okay, John Callum,
Here.
Sue Garling, I think we got her. We got Gary O'Hearn, we have Terry Spilsbury.
Here.
Stapleton, we have Brian Sullivan, we have with the Tanner, we have Skip Rollins here, and Stephen Smith.
I am here.
Okay, and also the chair, John Cloutier. I am here alone in the bedroom of my Claremont home. All right, thank you very much, Representatives O'Hearn and Rollins, for doing that. Now that we've called the roll, we have all 13 of us, which is great. Okay, let's begin. I'm going to turn it over to the county manager, Derek Furland, if he could introduce the elected officers and the staff who are there, present in the room, please.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Chair. We have all three Sullivan County Commissioners, our Chair, George Hebert, Vice Chair, Benny Nelson, and Clerk Joe Osgood. We also have, in addition to myself here in Newport, the Nursing Home Administrator, Ted Purdy, and our Facilities and Operations Director, Mary Burke. And joining us online on the Zoom call are the Superintendent of the Department of Corrections, Dave Barry, and the Natural Resources Director, Lionel Chu, the Director of Nursing, April Bartley, and the Board of Commissioners, Budget Clerk, Jody Violet.
Okay.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I missed Representative Stapleton. Is he here?
Okay, we forgot to call him. Representative, you are there, right?
Right in the meeting room.
All right, okay, thank you very much. Sorry for that oversight. Yes, thank you very much, Representative Tanner, for pointing that out, and Representative Stapleton for answering. Okay, all right, thank you very much, Mr. County Manager. Now I'm going to open the hearing for Sullivan County Healthcare renovation, and specifically not only the project, but the project funding. And I've talked with the county manager about this, so I would like a brief project summary, no more than hopefully 5 minutes, 10 minutes, so that before the public starts testifying, as well as maybe members of the delegation who haven't been up, maybe not on the finance committee, to understand what we are talking about tonight. So Mr. Furland, or whoever you want to designate, if you could please do that summary now, and please keep it brief to no more than 10 minutes.
All right, thanks, Mr. Chair. I'll turn it over to Mary Burke. I shared my screen. If there are any technical difficulties, please sing out if you can't see the slides. Oh, sorry.
No, we've got this here.
Okay, does everybody see the first slide?
All right, yeah, yes, I see it.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, it should be, I just changed it to that. Okay, cool. All right.
So good evening. My name is Mary Burke, and as Derek said, I'm the Director of Facilities and Operations for the county. So we're going to give just a quick brief overview. So Sullivan County Healthcare is a 156-bed long-term care facility comprised of 3 buildings, 2 of which are 90 and 50 years old. So the proposed project will demolish Sanders, the older of the two buildings being addressed. It was built in 1931. We'll renovate Stearns, built in the 1970s, as well as construct an integrated addition. The aging buildings have failing systems that are at the end of their useful life, and repairs to the systems would be so intensive that to complete them triggers a need to comply with current federal and state nursing home standards. The standards are also driven by changing community expectations for more home-like environments for nursing home residents. When we think back about historically how long-term care has changed, our facilities at Sullivan County reflect the changing expectations and regulations. We have seen that regulations reflect the need to adapt over the course of about every 30 to 40 years, and building lifespans drive major changes about every 40 to 50 years. So as you look through this timeline, you can demonstrate how the changes in regulations and society's expectations with the 3 existing buildups that make up Sullivan County healthcare. You can see the changes in the privacy in rooms from where we started with 2 to 4 bed wards to semi-private rooms. Further down, the goals and the regulations drive having semi-private rooms with each bed having access to a window. Bathrooms went from common bathrooms at the end of corridors to 1 toilet for residents. And now we're looking at shared bathrooms within the rooms for 1 to 2 residents, including a shower. So that improves the privacy that residents have. And if you think about dining in common spaces, there were no common spaces outside a resident's room when Sanders was built in 1931, to adding main dining rooms and some central spaces, and now moving to the future to comply with regulations. We're looking at increased dining spaces for families to meet with their loved ones, as well as common spaces for activities. Okay. So moving forward, after several years of study, the current design was completed by Warren Street Architects in the spring of 2020. And that was based on Board of Commissioners and Sullivan County Delegation review and approval in August of 2019 for what we called option 6, to maintain a 156-bed facility in order to expand the ability to serve more physical rehabilitation residents, as well as the flexibility to increase the mix of private versus government payers. The decision also supported moving forward with county commissioners' offices moving from Newport to Unity. And looking at a quick view of what the proposed renovation is we take, this is a ground floor of the complex, and if you could just cycle through these real quick. So the blue represents the existing McConnell footprint, which is a dementia unit. Orange represents the footprint of Stearns that remains, and green represents the new addition onto the facility. Again, taking a look from the function of the first floor, the blue remains the same as the dementia unit. Pink represents operational spaces and resident areas. And then green represents what we are calling the Main Street area. And so that's a central break room, resident dining, and other services that are currently scattered throughout the facility become consolidated for residents on the ground floor. Yellow represents offices that hold the county commissioner's office and staff, as well as natural resources. And purple looks to bring the function of the Ahern meeting room, which is a separate building in Unity, into the nursing home for more readily available use by residents and staff. So the design is highly driven by the resident room, and the resident room is highly regulated by facility guidelines. And those guidelines are actually regulations adopted by New Hampshire Department of Health and Human Services and CMS, or the Centers for Medicaid and Medicare. And so if you look at this slide, on the left-hand side represents the current room that we have in Stearns, and on the right-hand side is what the proposed room would be. So in the same square footage, we now, it holds 4 residents with a single shared toilet and no showering or bathing space. And if you look on the right-hand side, this is the proposed unit for 2 residents, where each resident has access to a window and a shared bathroom with shower amongst the 2. If you look at the blue dotted outlines on the right-hand side, those are the spaces that are actually dictated by the regulations for clearances. So the room on the right-hand side is actually the minimum space that we could have to serve residents under the current guidelines. So as that room design drives the upper floors, or the resident floors, you can see this is the typical upper floor layout. The blue represents resident rooms around the outside of the building to maximize window space. The orange or pink represents social spaces or dining spaces for residents' use. The green varies floor to floor, but it's resident services or administrative staff offices. And then the core that stayed in the middle was nursing or services such as housekeeping, as well as mechanical and electrical systems. So where we are looking for the proposed renovation addition project, we went out to determine a guaranteed maximum price last summer, which means that we bid out the job. At that time, the construction cost came in at about $42.4 million. And the anticipated budget for soft costs, which includes administration of the project, as well as furniture, furnishings, and equipment, and other regulated expenses associated with permitting, The total project budget that we had proposed back in August was $49.5 million. Where we stand today, based on feedback that we've gotten from the general contractor, Milestone Construction, is that we are looking at about a 10% escalation based on the current construction climate, if we were to go to the street with this summer. So adding that to last year's budget, we're now looking at a proposed budget of about $54 million. The three main factors that have impacted this estimated budget is one, the federal regulations, as I mentioned before. Rooms are twice the size of the existing rooms for clearances and bathrooms. That alone drives a lot of the square footage that we need to either remodel or build. Existing site conditions, anytime that you have a renovation, there's always restrictions that you're gonna fight against. And so in this case, the 10-foot floor-to-floor ceiling height in Stearns drives a lot of creativity and added expense that we need to do to run the mechanical, plumbing, and electrical systems, and phasing strategy to minimize disruption. That was one of our goals that we had for the project, was to minimize disruption to most, particularly residents, but also to staff, and we feel like we've done a good job at that. And then the local construction climate, and I think this probably at this point goes beyond that to the national construction climate. If anyone's familiar with that right now, kind of prices are a little bit out of control, and then labor shortages have been a long-term issue for here in the Twin State region. So as far as financial scenarios that we've looked at, there's been some discussion on the amount that we would be looking to bond, either $35 or $40 million. And here you can see laid out some options with carrying about a 3% interest rate for this demonstration and varying between a 25-year term and a 29-year term. And the difference between the 35 million to the 40 million discussion is driven from the fact that we're looking to take an amount from our capital reserve fund and use money that we have set aside, as well as the discussions around using an estimated $8 million that we're expecting from the American Rescue Plan Act stimulus. And that total amount would really be driven by what we would get the GMP back, but the financing decisions need to be made before that can happen. And that's
Okay.
what we have.
Okay, thank you very much, Facilities Director Bork. So this is I just wanted to have that brief summary. Now I would like to open it up to public comments and questions, and also listen to the public. But if delegation members do have questions, or someone who is speaking, if you raise your hand or indicate to me or the county manager, if you're in the room, you'd like to ask a question. So I'm going to open it up now to the public from either Zoom or if anybody's there in person. So I'd like to hear the public comments on this proposal, please. Go ahead. Who would like to go first?
Hello.
Okay. Yes. Go ahead.
Yes,
Hello?
my name is Mike Petrin, a resident of Claremont.
Okay, yes. Okay, welcome, Mr. Petrin. Go ahead. Thank you for coming.
Full disclosure, I do not work for the county. I do work at the county home as the director of rehab at the facility.
Okay.
I'd like to speak to the fact that with the current facility being what it is, the staff and the staff members there do an amazing job taking care of the residents, getting the residents the care that they deserve. With that said, this facility is at the point where it really needs these renovations to be able to meet the needs of future residents. We have a baby boom generation that's coming, and with our current census and with the predicted boom that will be coming in the next several years, having these renovations would really be a wonderful thing for the county to be able to maintain the work that we do up there. I know it's a hit on the taxes. I am a taxpayer in the city of Claremont. Don't want to see my taxes go up, but this is a necessary renovation and it really needs to be done. Downsizing or changing at this point really is not the best option. I think I've watched these meetings in the past. I've seen the can get kicked down the road. And I think any further delay is going to be a further cost to the taxpayers. Now's the time really to get on board, get this approved and get moving forward with the project. Well, bond rates are at a fairly low rate. Construction costs are high, but with the lower interest rate, I think now is the time to take action and move forward with this project. Not just for the current residents, for the future residents. So.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Pete.
Thank you all for your time that you've spent on this. I truly appreciate it.
All right, okay, so, all right, so are there any questions of Mr. Petron? If there are none, I will move on to the next person, please. All right, thank you. Okay. Mr. Furland, are you there?
I am. Oh, sure, yeah. Chair, can you hear us okay?
Yeah, I can hear you. Now, is there anybody else wanted to testify?
We actually do have some on via Facebook that,
Yeah, I can hear you. Now, is there anybody else wanted to testify?
Sharon, can you mute yourself?
Okay, mute, okay.
So Mary Burke will read those out loud if that's okay with you.
So there's actually several questions from one person here. Francis Nichols Sr. says, future is fantastic, but it is a pandemic and they don't even allow visitors as it used to be, along with the way of life at the home. Not to mention, they were one of the worst places hit with cases of coronavirus. If they can't get help or find educated employees, how are they going to fill so many new jobs? So question is really, what should they be worried about? Not to mention added expense to taxpayers. Energy, power, fuels, it all adds up and fast. Will the current heating systems be big enough for the new additions? So I can answer some of these. Is that the design of the project, the goals was not to add additional staff. And so although there is more square footage, it's all based on current staffing models that that the nursing home uses. And I'll answer a couple more of these and I'll invite Ted to for that if you would like to. And when the question with energy, power, and fuels, it all adds up fast. And will the current heating system be big enough for the new additions? Actually, the buildings that we have are quite inefficient when it comes to energy and power. We have older lighting systems and we have a building envelope and windows that are very dated. So the renovation will actually improve those things. We've actually added also heat recovery systems where we create heat from the tempered water that returns from the heating systems. In fact, even going so far as using the heat that's generated by the walk-in coolers and freezers to help heat the building. These are all integrated efforts in order to actually reduce energy costs. So we will be in a much better situation when it comes to energy use after the project. And then, so he has a couple more comments on looking at ways to increase revenue using the farming and inmate labor. And there used to be a lot of revenue based on these. Tammy Porter. Oh, did you want to speak about increased staffing?
Sure. As you alluded to, this is Ted Purdy, Sullivan County Healthcare Committee Administrator. There again, the staffing model, as Mary had mentioned, is really using the same, assuming that we have, we roughly run around 135 or so. And as staffing, if we're able to enhance the skilled services and other services within the facility under this new renovation, then we're able to staff up to those based on our current model. So we are prepared to, and that's the hope, is be able to enhance the skilled services, provide additional revenue sources for the facility, which would also meet the needs of those needing skilled services within the county.
Ted, you mentioned COVID too. Could you say how the current facility hampered you during COVID and how the new facility would be better for the next pandemic or even flu season?
Sure. We'll just kind of move towards that. The current facility is, there again, built in the 70s primarily. Residents and staff work in really confined spaces. The rooms are very small. Current guidelines for dealing with COVID and for influenza also require a bit more spacing within from residents, opportunities for more open spaces within common areas. Certainly the physical plant then is geared for, under the new code requirements, is really geared for better ventilation, better care and services, which would hopefully be able to decrease any respiratory issue or any infection control issue.
So we have another comment here, and then we can maybe turn it back to other people that are on the phone. So Tammy Porter.
Before we continue, I have my hand raised.
Chair Cloutier, you are muted.
Okay, I would just make if we're reading from a Facebook and the people's names, we should also include their residence as far as what town they're from for the record.
Okay, thanks. Well, if they just left a comment, I guess we can try to ascertain that, but unless they chime that in, but we can ask folks to do that. Thanks.
Okay, so I have, this is Tammy Porter of Unity. And she writes, as a former employee of Sullivan County Healthcare, I cannot agree more with Mike Petrin. Our future residents of the healthcare facility deserve to live in a home-like environment to match the top-notch care they currently receive, and I'm sure they will receive in the future. And the first questions that I had from Francis Nichols Sr., he indicates that he lives in Webster. And that's all that I have on Facebook right now.
So one other point from the first set of questions was about the use of inmate labor in the county lands for revenues. We're actually going to be discussing some land leases that we'll be asking for the delegation authority to complete some of those. There's not a lot of revenue to be had, but as far as the inmate labor goes, we do actually leverage that to great effect currently. We use inmate labor in the laundry facility, which is located inside the Department of Corrections. We also use inmates in the kitchen to help with food prep and also out on the grounds to do grounds maintenance in the summertime. And in the wintertime, they help with shoveling sidewalks and putting down sand and salt. This was discussed when we were asked to consider relocating the nursing home to another location off of our Unity campus complex. And we estimated that it would likely cost several $100,000 because of the additional staffing that we would have to hire to make up for the labor that we enjoy and utilize from the inmates.
All right. Okay. All right. Thank you. Ms. Burke, any other comments from Facebook?
There aren't at this time.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much for reading them. I appreciate it. Are there any other members of the public who wish to speak on this matter of the nursing home? Are there any other members of the public? All right, so there are no other members that either via Zoom or in the room? Okay.
Representative Stapleton has his hand raised.
Okay, yes, go ahead, please, Representative Stapleton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to direct a question to Mr. Purdy relative to the dementia unit in the facility. How many beds are there allocated to that? And will that be expanded into the new facility as well? What was the anticipation number of increase for the dementia unit?
So thank you for that question. The current McConnell unit has 32 beds, which is dedicated for those with dementia and Alzheimer's and related diseases. Those are for most people who are admitted there still have an ability to be able to ambulate and to move independently for the most part. What we also have a certain percentage of other populations on terms 2 and 3, so that have some dementia. So we probably have about 40 to 45% of our current population has some level of dementia or Alzheimer's. So it's quite it's embedded. The programming for dementia is certainly embedded within our facility and our operation. So we will continue to have the ability to be able to meet the needs of those residents at their different stages within the disease progression.
Follow up.
Yes, go ahead, please, Representative Stapleton.
So you anticipate that there's going to be a greater need for care for dementia patients, more dementia patients as the population grows, when the baby boomers are becoming an influx into the facility?
I would agree with that. You know, as a greater percentage of population need care under the baby boomers, as we allude to, it would kind of make sense that even if we have about similar percentage of people in the population that need dementia and Alzheimer's care services, that number would increase.
Follow up again.
Yes, please continue, Representative Stapleton.
So if you need more rooms for dementia, is there any special outfitting that is necessary or additional cost for going into other rooms that might not have been originally planned or designed for dementia patients?
No, actually, you know, the way the current standards are under this renovation, along with the way that the McConnell unit is built, really provide for an excellent living environment for those with dementia and those without, those with skilled needs. So as essentially the new design under the renovation really kind of expands upon the design of the McConnell unit as it currently stands. As Mary alluded to, every resident has a window. The rooms are larger. The beds are kind of toe to toe, and this design takes it one step further and provides for a division between the rooms, so that a semi-private room feels more like an individual room.
Thank you very much for that.
Okay, thank you. Representative Sullivan, please. Thank you for waiting.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I'm hearing that the bond market is very favorable at the moment, but I'm also hearing that the construction costs and material costs are very unfavorable at the moment. Could someone provide some insight as to how those two work off each other? Are we, paying a fortune in construction cost for a small benefit in bond, or is the benefit in the bond so great that the construction costs are worth enduring at the moment?
Anybody care to answer Representative Sullivan's question, please?
The best of both worlds was 6 months ago, when the bond prices were at their lowest. Construction costs have gone up in that 6 months. Bonds are almost at historic lows. If you look at what's happening in Washington, they're going to go up with the federal spending. Construction costs, the infrastructure bill is coming. When the feds dump $2 billion on the infrastructure spending, construction costs are going to go up. Whereas all the trades are short now. When the feds dump $2 billion into infrastructure, there's going to be less pavers, less construction folks. So construction costs are going to go up when the feds enter the picture. So I would think they're both as low as they're going to be for the foreseeable future.
Follow up?
Yes, please continue, Representative Sullivan.
Has anybody actually run the numbers to give us a clear picture as to the impact, other than just anecdotally? One's high, the other's low. One seems to be going up, the other one might go. For us to make a major decision for over $50 million, it seems that we ought to have an idea of whether or not now is the right time or not.
Representative Sullivan, we've run numbers in the past based on our best estimates of what we think interest rates will be, but to ask us to try to project both the construction material and labor markets as well as what the interest rates will be, I mean, we can run more scenarios, and I'm not sure, I know that's not a very satisfying answer, but that's firmly in crystal ball territory. I mean, we don't know going forward how quickly interest rates will rise or when they will rise. And we don't know if the construction market for materials and or labor will soften up at any point in the future. I guess if we had any certainty about either of those variables, that would give us a better guide. I'm not sure what to tell you other than we can run a whole bunch of different numbers, but without knowing what the guaranteed maximum price might look like later this summer. And if we don't like what the number is, we could wait till next summer, but then we won't know what the interest rates will be. I mean, I can show you, if I can isolate one of those variables, and I would probably isolate the projected construction cost, and we can run endless numbers of potential interest rates to show you how powerful the interest rate market impact will be on the project cost. But
All right. Yeah. Commissioner Nelson, you had something to add?
I mean, there's $2 billion of federal money just starting to hit the pipeline now. My understanding is the legislature is looking to tap into it to build a new mental health facility. And you gotta think every municipality, every government entity out there is looking to spend the CARES Act money on building something. So the trades are gonna be busier than they are now. Materials are gonna be shorter than they are now. And then there's gonna be another $2 trillion of infrastructure money, buildings, roads, infrastructure, that's going to put a bigger strain on existing construction. So if anybody can show me a scenario that they think construction's going down in the next 5 years, I mean, go for it. I can't believe construction costs are going down in the near future. I mean, Mr. Rollins, you might know more about that than I do, but I can't, if anybody can make a case that construction costs are going down in the next 5 years, I'd love to hear it.
I would also add that the approximately $8 million that we're set to receive under the American Rescue Plan Act needs to be spent by December 31st of 2024. So if we wait in anticipation of either a softer construction market or better interest rates, then there's a time factor for that additional $8 million. The two scenarios that we presented on the next to last slide presumed a partial bond, which was raised at a previous meeting. And so that was a hedge against feeling the full impact of having to borrow for the full, whether it's 50 or 55 million of this project. If we only borrowed 35 or 40, and then take advantage of that additional 8 million plus what's in the capital reserve fund, that was one way that it was offered that we could minimize the additional tax burden.
And this would be a project that would be tailor-made to tap into some of that infrastructure money that's coming down the road. You know, for the next $2 trillion that Washington's going to send down the pipeline. This is an infrastructure project that I would think would fit right into that. So we may, chances, no promises, but chances are good we'll have another bite at the federal apple.
All right, okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, there are a couple other comments on Facebook, so. if you-
Okay, yes, if you could please read them.
Yes.
Yes, so this is Francis Nichols Senior again from Leominster. How many people are employed at the facility now? How many positions need to be filled? How many people do you see needing in the future for maintenance and hospital kitchen staff?
Sure. So we have about 170 employees currently in the nursing facility. If the question is, you know, what are the vacancies? We're able to really meet all of our responsibilities. We have certainly some vacancies in dietary, housekeeping. We make sure that the nursing staff is fully functional, operational, be able to provide the care, meet the needs of the residents. We have about 15% of agency staff that augment or provide services. So it's probably about, if you say what's the vacancies in nursing, it's probably about 15%, but we cover that through the use of agency.
And I've heard some news stories that with COVID, actually nursing schools are seeing more applications. There are actually more people going into nursing. Is that what you hear?
Yes, it's kind of it's a nice kind of you know, indication there of people's commitment to healthcare. I've heard the same types of things. Right now, it's a bit tight. Certainly, things are kind of flushing out as you know, census have been low for most places. We're being able to increase that census as we move forward. So there again, we're confident we can meet the needs of residents with current staffing level.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Pert and Mrs. Burke. Yes, you have another comment, Ms. Burke? I'm sorry.
There's a couple more here. So also from Francis Nichols, will local contractors and materials be utilized by local companies? And yes, that is a goal that we've expressed with the construction manager. They are out of Concord. And so one thing to consider is the size of this project itself restricts a little bit local firms that are geared to serving smaller populations. It's a pretty big job that will have a duration of about 30 months. But we have identified in the first go round, we actually identified quite a bit of participation from local companies that were interested in. We would look to be creative in how we can accomplish that as there is a desire to keep that, that effort within the county as much as possible or the surrounding areas. And then I have one more comment here on Facebook that's from Maureen Whitcomb. She doesn't indicate where she lives, but she says, I am an employee. I see the need every day for more space, but I worry about our elderly on Social Security trying to hang on to their homes. They are already struggling. And that's all we have on Facebook.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Burke. Okay, so is there any other members of the public, either virtually or in the room, who wish to make some comments about this proposed project, please, as presented? Is there anybody else?
Raised by Reb McKenzie.
Reb McKenzie. Okay, go ahead, please, Miss McKenzie.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So I have a question about the energy efficiency and the clean energy options that are being proposed for this project. And I'm from Claremont, and I was hoping that there would be great consideration about those concerns in this project.
All right. Okay, thank you. Who wants to answer her question, please? Ms. McKenzie.
I can answer that.
Okay, yes, go ahead, please, Ms. Burke.
So holistically, we've looked at the energy impacts of this facility in a few different ways. If we look campus-wide, we currently get the majority of our heat and hot water from our biomass plant, which is a very sustainable operation supporting local lumber industry by utilizing green wood chips that are purchased. That operation itself also generates revenue, which almost offsets the costs of wood chips. So that overall is a huge strategy that we have for generating heat and hot water. We're also looking on how to improve the efficiency of that within the building by making some modifications to the way that the steam is introduced into the building. As I mentioned earlier, improving the efficiencies of the systems being replaced also will have a huge impact, and adding more efficient and specific ways that we are utilizing wasted energy, heat recovery, by using heated air that's being expelled from the building to help preheat other air, using wasted energy from refrigeration equipment to help preheat water. From an electrical standpoint, we would be looking at energy efficient motors, LED lighting. Currently now we have no type of energy control system in the building. By adding that to both the electrical, the lighting, the mechanical, HVAC systems, we will be able to see huge increases in the control, making sure things are turned off when they're not in use. And I know there has been discussion about the use of solar for the facility. The building itself is not capable of handling solar panels, particularly the existing Stearns building. But what we have as a county, a couple of years ago, we entertained some proposals and some ideas on how a future project would create a solar field for for electricity to the county complex. And so that is being addressed as a separate project outside of this one, if that's something we wanted to move forward in the future. So although it's not being addressed as something that's kind of glamorous as the solar panels on the building, we're making some really smart decisions that will have direct impacts on our operating budgets in a positive way.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Burke. All right. Is any other questions, Ms. McKenzie?
Yes, with the new stimulus Biden plan, I am curious about perhaps incorporating that solar project into this facility. This might be a great time to take advantage of some of the energy programs that are coming towards us that would perhaps relieve some of the energy burden through using solar and mini splits. So I just want to suggest that this might be a time where we would look at those kinds of innovative clean energy projects that would be, I think, very timely for this administration.
Okay. All right. All right, is that a question or a comment? Just want to be sure about that.
It's kind of both. I mean, are you interested in pursuing an idea of looking at further funding that might make that solar project feasible at this time and incorporating that into this facility?
All right. Okay, thank you. I think I get, Ms. Burke, would you care to answer that question, please?
Sure, I'll take it if you don't mind.
Oh, okay, thank you. Go ahead, please, Mr. Burke.
Yeah, we'd love to access more funding for something like that. There's a big difference in when you pursue that as the owner, as opposed to a third party. The incentives that you're able to capitalize on make the economics much different. So as Mary referenced, we had a solar developer pitch a power purchase agreement because as a third party developer, they're able to leverage some significant federal tax incentives that make the economics just a much more favorable outcome. If we were to do it ourselves, we would not be able to capitalize on those incentives. If a future infrastructure bill has additional funding and it looks good, then yeah, absolutely. I think we probably would consider it. But as of yet, I have not seen any details on this subsequent infrastructure bill. And there is no funding in the current American Rescue Plan Act for solar that I'm aware of.
All right, okay, thank you.
The
All right,
biomass,
okay,
you know, the
okay.
biomass is sustainable and the revenue that it's getting are clean energy credits. So we are doing it on the heat part and we will certainly look to do it on the electricity part if we can.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Nelson. Okay, is any other further questions, Ms. McKenzie?
No, thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much for your questions and comments. Appreciate it. Okay, anybody else, any other members of the public, either virtually or in the room that would like to comment on this proposal, please, on the project?
Chair, I have one more on Facebook. before
Okay,
we-
yeah, please read that, Ms. Burke.
This is from Beth Rinkowski. As an employee, I can say the building is very outdated. The maintenance department does their best to maintain systems, often a struggle to find replacement parts because items are obsolete. Residents struggle for space to live in, to socialize, and especially hard with COVID restrictions. With the population also becoming more obese, this requires larger beds, equipment, etc. to care for them. The bathrooms are terribly small, making care of residents difficult. The staff struggle daily in these tight resident rooms. There is no storage for residents, so they must limit the few personal items they can bring to their new home and all of the products required to care for them. The upside to this location is the farmland, the cows, the garden, and the most amazing sunsets. I lost my place here. In the scrolling. The most amazing sunsets that the residents say adds to their quality of life. They do not want to live in town. Thank you.
All right, okay. All right, thank you, Ms. Burke, for reading that. Okay, again, any other questions or comments from either anybody who's attending virtually or in person about this proposed project?
I have one
one comment. I don't know if the delegates are aware, but
Okay, Representative Stapleton, go ahead, please.
this is Commissioner Hebert.
Okay, I'm sorry. I apologize. I couldn't understand. Thought it was Representative Stapleton. Commissioner Osgood, go ahead.
I'll take second. He's going first.
Anyway, the state of New Hampshire had the worst number of cases in nursing homes in the entire country per census. And that doesn't bode well with the actual strength of the facilities, and it tells you what kind of shape they're in, probably across the entire state. Sullivan County really needs an upgrade. So I don't know if that helps the situation any, but that's a fact. And it's,
All right. Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Hebert. I'm sorry if I'm sorry. I had trouble. My sound isn't the best tonight.
Mr. Chair, I would like to chime in. This is Joe Osgood.
Okay. Yes. Go ahead, please, Commissioner Osgood.
Many people that have mortgages, they look at 0.25% or 0.5% when they look at refinancing their house. I'd really like to take my hat off to the manager for concentrating on percentages of what we're gonna pay for a bond. You take a person that can shave 0.5% off from their mortgage, and they're very happy because they're gonna save a lot of money. We're in the area where we're probably gonna get the lowest interest rate we can. And I'm thinking now's the time to jump on to something like that.
All right. Okay. All right. Thank you. Appreciate that comment. Okay. Any other questions or comments before I close the public hearing on the nursing home project? Yes, Miss Margaret Dry, Mrs. Dry, please.
Hi, this is Margaret Dry from Plainfield. Just listening to the employees and people associated with the buildings talk about the space, the lack of space, makes me wonder if this is the time to do it. What would happen if we put this off and waited? Would there be any advantage at all?
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Dry. Anyone, the county manager or anybody else care to comment on that from Mrs. Dry?
Maybe Mary can jump in. I think I wouldn't call it maybe an advantage of waiting. I think it's just assumed risk. In the last couple of years, we've seen some fairly significant failures of our infrastructure systems. Probably the most heinous example, and I'm not trying to bring this up to like do the Chicken Little thing and scare everybody, but our former human resources director showed up to work on a Monday with about 3 inches of gray water on her office floor. We've had parts of our heat exchanger system from our steam heat where it gets converted into the building that they don't even make anymore. And that was, I believe, a $46,000 repair, or was it $26,000?
It ended up low 30s.
Yeah,
By the time we were done.
So the parts are very expensive. They're hard to find. And it's just the heating infrastructure and the plumbing infrastructure. If there is a major failure, our fear is the worst case is you start to put the health and safety of our residents and staff at risk. And that's what happens with waiting. I mean, it's really a matter of when, not if, but I'll let Mary maybe amplify that a little bit.
Yes, Derek's completely right. Those were two major things that we've had gone wrong. In the last couple of years, we've also identified some potentially devastating issues that could happen. We have a failing waste line from the kitchen. If that in turn does fail, we would have a hard time using any water systems within the kitchen because we wouldn't be able to get rid of the waste. The plumbing, particularly the gray water and black water waste systems, are always of concern because the pipes are rotting from the inside out. And so that is not something that we can identify, and it's very invasive in order to make any of those repairs. There's a number of things that we've identified as larger systems that could potentially go wrong. The main storage tank for the hot water within the facility, as well as 2 backup boilers, are also aging. themselves. So I have a staff that works day to day, and we operate in a just in time, and that's not just in time in a good way. It's just in time in the way that we identify things just in time or after that they happen. Another example, last winter, we had a staircase flood with a broken water pipe. So as Derek mentioned, it's risk management. And unfortunately right now, the risk is there in a way that we can't mitigate it without a major renovation of the systems. And it's so invasive that those are what invoke having to comply with the new regulations because of the fact that they are so intense and an integral part of affecting the residents' lives. So the moment that we start touching those systems and disrupting resident spaces, the state will require us to meet the new code. So it's not a matter of just repairing what's there.
And on a related note, we're risking our licensure. So beyond the cost, the inconvenience, and the risks to health and safety, at some point the state steps in and says, this facility is in such a condition that if you don't bring it up to standard, you may lose your license. And I think that's that potential is out there.
But even COVID has pointed out how, our 1970s ventilation, which was state of the art in the 70s, all the exhaust is vented to the resident's room. So somebody walking down the hallway with a cold, that air gets sucked to the resident's room and out, which is ass backwards. But that's was state of the art in the 70s. So residents' lives are at risk from norovirus. You want to talk about compromised immune systems. There are people that are concerned about going to Concord rightly so, due to compromised immune system, and I know many of you support them. You have a building full of people with compromised immune systems. The ventilation is sucking anything in the hallway through their room, and so they're at risk every day for, the next COVID that probably won't last 100 years, but just from norovirus to flu, they're at risk for real common stuff, and they don't have the ability to social distance and stay at home and zoom in. So that's our union staff, and non-union staff and our senior citizens are at risk from the ventilation and the lack of social distancing in this facility.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. Representative Sullivan, you had a question, please?
No, I think I clicked on the raise hand by accident. Sorry.
Okay, all right, that's all right. Thank you. Okay, so if there are no other comments from the public, either virtually or online or in person, I'm going to close the public hearing.
Representative two, Chairman.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Representative Rollins here. Can I make a comment?
Oh, yeah, okay, yes, go ahead, please, Representative Rollins.
Commissioner Nelson's question about where I think that the prices of lumber are going to go. Can everybody hear me? Yes.
Okay, yeah, I can hear you. Please go ahead.
I do not have a crystal ball. All I can tell this delegation is what I know. I know that and I deal with over 100 contractors. I know all the reputable contractors are a minimum of 9 months out. A lot of them a year and a half, 2 years out. They are booked. As long as we are having this influx of out-of-state people moving into New Hampshire, they want to live in this area, whether they can, if we put a house on the market now, it's gone within 3 to 5 days. And there's usually a bidding war. And if the house is up for $500,000, it goes over that. People are offering the contractors anything they want. They'll double the price of what it takes just to move up here. As long as we have that influx of people wanting to move into the area, wanting to build a house or to buy a house and to do remodel, our prices, unfortunately, I really say unfortunately, are going to remain extremely high. Some prices have gone down. Some pressure treated has gone down a little bit.
so everyone knows, 7/16 OSB, which is the cheapest plywood that you could possibly buy. Before the COVID hit, was $8 a sheet. It now retails for $38 a sheet. So if we don't move on it now, I don't know where it's gonna go, but I don't see it coming down for a very long time until this boom of migration into New Hampshire stops.
Okay, thank you, Representative Rollins. Okay, if there are no other further questions or comments, I'm going to close the public hearing.
Chair.
I'm sorry, yes, someone else had a question or comment?
Yes, Stapleton.
Yes, go ahead, please, Representative Stapleton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just for the record, back on March the 20th, I put an article into the E-Ticker News describing the project and the urgency for timely decision and encouraging public feedback. I got about 5 or 6 emails, all positive for supporting the project, some of which may have been on here tonight because they sound familiar. I don't have those with me, but I can furnish them to committee if needed. The one additional thing I wanted to say is that we're into some strict deadlines here, and there's a 90-day price guarantee on the contractor, and I don't know how much time we've got left on that, but we could be facing a lot more on the next quote, especially if we decide we're going to cut the project or shorten it, downsize it. Then we've got to have new engineering and architectural plans. I think that probably it cost about $1 million. Maybe the commissioners can reflect on that. Not to mention the bond prices, rates going up. Materials already been cited. This is a go nowhere positive if we delay and obfuscate. I'd like to know what the architectural cost would be if we decided to condense the project, downsize it, because that would be delay and what we're going to face that additional cost. I think we've already got about 2 million in these sort of things already. So I'm worried that we're going to be wasting money if we don't act properly. And that's taxpayer money, and it's a lot of money. $1, $2, $3 million for planning and architecture and engineering. That's real money, and that's taxpayer money.
All right, okay. Thank you, Representative Stapleton. That is a good, that brings up a question maybe the county manager can answer. How these prices you quote on the project, how good are these prices for? How long do we have before they might go up?
That's great. I'm glad you asked the opportunity to clarify. We do not have a guaranteed maximum price current. That number that we used from last summer, that price expired. So we would need to go out and get another GMP. That effort, what will effort for that? 30K, 50K?
Yeah.
It'd be about, we'd have to get an exact price from our construction manager to go out and obtain new quotes from subcontractors. But we expect to have to spend 30 to 50K, $30,000 to $50,000 for that effort. That would give us the new price, which they would, yes, hold that price for a determined amount of time.
So again, how many months has this expired? You said something about expiring the prices.
Well, the prices are expired, so we do not have a guaranteed maximum price work off. We're using our best estimate based off what it was last summer and what the construction manager has told us to estimate for escalation from the summer of 2020 to the summer of 2021. So right now, everything's just an estimate.
All right, okay. All right, thank you very much, Mr. Furlan. Okay, so unless there's any further questions or comments from the public or the delegation, I'm going to close the public hearing on the Sullivan County Healthcare renovation. Close that hearing, and I'm going to open the hearing on the sober housing Sullivan House project. And I don't know, again, the county staff, maybe a brief presentation of hopefully no more than 5 minutes, if possible, or 10 at the absolute maximum.
This will be hopefully much less than 5, Mr. Chair. I just shared a screen, my screen, which is a very brief summary. I won't read it word for word, but I'll use it as a guide. Part of the funding stack for the sober housing project includes a loan from the New Hampshire Community Loan Fund in the amount of $1.1 million. The terms of that loan are 5% interest rate, and it's amortized over 30 years, which results or will result in a monthly repayment of $5,900 per month, approximately, which is over half of our anticipated operating budget. So if we are able to go through the New Hampshire Municipal Bond Bank and take advantage of rates that we expect will be around 2% or so, just that savings on the interest rate alone will allow us to save anywhere from $700 to $1,700 per month on that repayment, depending on the term that we choose. So further down, I just presented a couple of different projected scenarios, not knowing exactly what the interest rates will be, but just to give you a different idea of what a 25-year term versus a 25 versus 29-year term payment plan would be. We do have a use restriction for 30 years on account of the New Hampshire Housing Finance Authority loan that they are giving us. So whether we did it for 25 or 29, we'd both be within the use restriction time period required by NIFA. So I guess I don't have a particular, I mean, generally speaking, on my personal preferences, I don't like debt, and I like to get out of debt as soon as possible. But in this case, because the repayment will essentially be funded by the rents that we receive from the participants that live in the sober housing facility, I don't know that there's a bad or much downside to choosing the 29-year term. But we can discuss that between now and the night of the actual vote. I just wanted to provide some different information so you can see what the savings would be, because it would be significant, and it would take, quite frankly, quite a bit of pressure off the facility, and it would allow us to maintain break-even status at a lower census than we would otherwise had we kept the original loan from the Community Loan Fund. So there's really no downside. It's all upside, and it will allow us to run this in a very taxpayer-friendly manner going forward.
Okay, all right, okay, thank you, Mr. Ferland. Okay, so I'm going to open this up now to comments from the public. They want to testify on this, or any members of the public, either in the room, present in the room, or virtually, who wish to speak on this proposal, please. Are there any members, or even, as I said, Facebook comments? I don't know if Miss Burke is still there to read any Facebook, if there are any.
Chair, this is Mary. There are no Facebook comments about the sober housing.
All right, okay, thank you very much. Any members of the public wish to testify, either who are present in the room or are attending virtually, who wish to speak on this proposal, please, as presented? Any members of the public? Okay, any members of the delegation have questions on this proposal? Any members of the delegation? I'm checking to be sure. I'm looking my computer. I do not see any raised hands. I don't know, those present in the room have any questions, please? Okay, so there's no questions. So then I will, if there are no questions or comments, I'm now going to close the public hearing on the sober housing Sullivan House project. So the hearing is closed. Before I go to item number 6, I think number 7 maybe sort of applies to the last item. Mr. Ferland, can you explain this again? You explained it to me once before, but something about the previous delegation made a mistake or something, and we need to clarify that before we vote on the bond for the sober housing unit.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd be happy to. It wasn't a mistake that was made. It was just a change in the condition from the time that we did the motion on September 25th. There's a hard copy that's been provided, and there was one online and the OneDrive. Basically, when the delegation voted to authorize us to secure these loans, it was an amount not to exceed of $2.3 million for both the NIFA loan, which is $1.2 million at the time, and the Community Loan Fund of $1.1 million. That was done in September. But as we went through the coordination process with the New Hampshire Housing Finance Authority for their board approval in January, they offered to increase the loan to 1.25 million to help us with some of the additional costs related to the escrow accounts and the operating reserves that they required us to have. So those weren't fully articulated to us, and we weren't really carrying all those costs when we obtained our own guaranteed maximum price for the construction work. So some of these, because they're NIFA's requirements, they offer to help us out. The good part about the NIFA loan is it's not a traditional loan that has to be repaid in a similar way that the community loan fund loan or the bond payment would be. We only repay them if there are net proceeds at the end of the year from our operating revenues. So the fact that they volunteered to give us an extra $50,000 is a great thing. So, but the problem is it made that motion invalid because we exceeded the not to exceed amount. So this motion will simply increase the not to exceed amount and reflect the revised amount of the New Hampshire Housing Finance Authority loan. And we need that for the closing process. That just came up in the last couple of weeks.
All right, okay. All right, thank you, Mr. Furlan. Are there any questions from the delegation about this matter? And I think members of the delegation who were there present have, if we're gonna make a motion on this, at least the amendment, a suggested amendment. And I know other members who are attending virtually, I don't know, I emailed it. I'm sorry I didn't get that out as soon as, but I'm having some computer trouble. So there is an amendment. So could we, Mr. Furlan, amend the motion tonight, even if, let's say, we didn't vote on it until another meeting? I mean, I just want to be clear about this.
I need a new motion in order to close on the loans, and
Well, okay, but
that's one
you
of the
should
things that's holding
amend
up.
the motion before we actually have the vote on the bond, right? Is that correct?
No, this does not require a vote. It's not a bond. It's the delegation already authorized us to secure these loans. I just have to change it's an administrative change essentially.
It's administrative change. Okay, so this requires just a simple majority vote?
That's correct.
Okay, now, so that's, okay, the hearing we just had, so is that is not on a bond? I just I want to be clear for everybody.
The hearing we just had would be for a bond, yes. It's for the
Okay,
1.1 million. So what we'd essentially do with the bond is displace the community loan fund loan. But that doesn't touch the New Hampshire Housing Finance Authority loan, and they're the ones that increased the amount that they're willing to loan to us.
okay. All right, okay, I just want to be clear. And of course, when we vote on anything that we bond requires a 2/3 vote of the delegation. Is that correct?
That is, but this isn't the bond. This is the New Hampshire Housing Finance Authority fund is simply a loan.
Okay, but what we just discussed, okay, I mean, I just want to be clear here. Okay, so I know the nursing home proposed, that's a bond, that takes a 2/3 vote, right, or 9 members?
Right.
All right, okay, and the
Well,
sober
we will-
housing, all right,
We will for the 1.1 million, that will be a bond as well.
that 1.1, okay. All right,
Item number
okay.
7 is to amend the motion that authorized us to secure the loans. So I guess it's probably something I haven't articulated quite clearly. We are still going to close on the community loan fund loan because that's going to happen. If not next week, it'll be the week after. The bond, if it's approved and we go through the bond bank, we won't get those funds until July. So if we need to spend the community loan fund, a portion of those proceeds between now and July, we would simply buy out the amount that the amount that's remaining on the community loan fund. It's a little confusing because of the timing. So we are still going to close on both loans because that's going to happen now. And we need this motion updated now in order to facilitate that closing. Later on, if we do get the bond will simply displace the funding provided by the community loan fund.
So you would suggest amending the motion, then we can vote on the motion for the bond. And of course, that takes a 2/3, but the amendment would be just a simple majority, right? Your understanding?
Tonight, we only need the motion to update the amount not to exceed and reflect the revised amount of the New Hampshire Housing Finance Authority loan, which is not affected by the bond. We can
Okay,
still.
all right, I just want to be clear. All right, okay. All right, thank you very much, Mr. Ferlin. Okay. Before, I mean, and I know, basically, I know I skipped item number 6. We've had public hearings, and I think I would, if you don't mind, I'd like to go down to ratification of county leases, because I don't think they're only going to take long, and go back to item number 6 to have a discussion. So I'd like to go to item number 8, the county leases, and whoever in the county staff is there, if you could briefly do these leases, and maybe we could take a vote tonight, because they just require a simple majority. Is that correct?
That's correct. So does that also mean we're going to go back to item number 7 and vote on that?
Yeah, okay, right, okay. And I don't know what you, yeah, item number 7. So if we want now, we could amend the item on the sober housing unit. If you wanted to amend it, we may not take a vote tonight, but we, any case, we need to amend that in order to vote on the bond. Is, okay, Representative Smith, you make a motion. Do I have a second on that motion?
Mr. Chair, I'm not making a motion. I have an inquiry of the chair.
Okay, yes, go ahead, please, Representative Smith.
Do I understand Mr. Furlong correctly that he needs a motion now to be able to close on the loan process that has nothing to do with the other agenda items?
Okay, you understand that question?
Shaking his head, yes.
Okay.
Follow up,
Right.
Mr.
Okay, did you hit, okay, so your question's been answered, Representative Smith?
And I have a follow-up if you.
Okay, go ahead, please.
For Mr. Furlong, can you folks write out that motion for us?
It's, yeah, that should be.
Yeah, I think you should have a sheet, Representative Smith. It was for those of you who are attending in person, you should have written sheets.
So we have a little pack of 3 motion and voting sheets. One relates to agenda item 7, which we're discussing. There's another one for agenda 8.
2 for
And
agenda.
those of you attending virtually, I should emailed you maybe half an hour, 45 minutes ago, but I will also have this amendment read before we vote on it.
So, Mr. Chair, I guess just one more time to try to cut through some of the confusion. The motion tonight is just to help us close on the loans. It does not impact the process for the bond.
Okay. All right, okay, I just, okay, so I think that helps a little bit. Any further questions from the delegation about this issue?
Representative O'Hearn, yes.
Yes, go ahead, please, Representative O'Hearn.
Just want to clarify, because I'm getting a little confused. So this vote, if we proceed, will not cause any increase with that we've already approved, correct?
Mr. Ferlin?
Would allow us to accept more funding from the New Hampshire Housing Finance Authority. So we would get more funding, but it's from NIFA, not from the Community Loan Fund.
Not from the taxpayers.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Representative O'Hearn. Representative Merchant, please.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, please.
I had a question on the next one, but on this one here, I'm fine.
Okay, all right, okay, all right. Okay. So do we want to entertain a motion to amend going back to the sober housing unit?
I'll make the motion. Mr.
Okay,
Chair.
Representative Aaron, thank you very much. Do I have a second on that motion to the amendment?
I'll second that,
Representative
Mr. Chair.
Okay,
Representative Tanner.
Tanner, okay, all right, thank you. Representative, motion made by Representative Aaron, seconded by Representative Tanner to amend
like
this
me to
motion.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah, okay, yes, Representative Aaron, go ahead.
what we're voting on.
Okay,
Move to amend the motion made September 25th.
20th, yeah. Do you want me to read it, or I can, you should have a copy in front of you.
I'll read it.
Okay, go ahead, please.
I
Thank you.
move to amend the motion made September 25th, 2020 as follows. To authorize the Sullivan County Board of Commissioners to enter into loan agreements with New Hampshire Housing Finance Authority and the New Hampshire Community Loan Fund to secure long-term loans in an amount not to exceed $2,350,000, which is comprised of $1,250,000 and $1,100,000 respectively, for the transitional housing project located at 19 Sullivan Street, Claremont, to allow for additional loan funding from NIFA of $50,000.
All right, thank you very much, Representative Aaron. Does anybody have any questions or comments about this proposed amendment and the motion that was made by Representative Aaron, seconded by Representative Tanner? Any questions? All right, are we ready for the vote? Representative O'Hearn, do you want, okay. Are you ready?
Yes,
to
I
call
will
the
take
roll?
over and call the roll.
Oh, who is that?
This is Representative O'Hearn.
Okay, yeah, you'll take over. Okay, please go ahead.
Okay. Representative Aaron,
Yes.
Representative Cowell,
Callum?
Yep.
Yes.
Representative Gotland, Representative Gotling,
I thought I heard her, but I
Sorry, I had to unmute. Yes.
thank you. And of course, my other tablet. Okay, there we go. Representative Merchant,
Yes.
Representative O'Hearn votes yes. Representative Oxenham,
Yes.
Representative Rollins,
Yes.
Representative Smith,
Yes.
Representative Spilsberg. So Spilsbury, sorry. It was a yes.
Was yes.
Representative Stapleton,
Yes.
Representative Tanner,
Yes.
Representative Cloutier. Oh, sorry. Oh, Representative Sullivan,
Yes.
and Representative the Chair Cloutier.
yes.
We find that all representatives voted yes.
All right,
No.
okay. Thank you very much, Representative O'Hearn. So the amendment passes. All right. All right. All right, so are we ready to take a vote? This is just on the sober housing bond issue. Are we ready for a vote on this project with the motion the amendment that was just passed?
A question to the chair.
Yes, go ahead, please, Representative Merchant.
Do we have a guaranteed price yet for the sober housing?
Yes, we do.
What is that price?
Give me just a second to look that up. Before I do that, Mr. Chair, I just want to clarify, we don't have to vote on the bond tonight. If you wanted to combine the vote for this one,
Okay.
you don't have to. It is your call, but I want to make sure that.
All right, do members, and as I said, we can put, because as I said, I think we need to have a debate and have another meeting on the Sullivan County Healthcare project, but I was just saying if members wanted to vote tonight, it doesn't seem as much questions and controversy, but I could put it off to another meeting in the next couple of weeks.
Let's wait, please. Brian Sullivan.
What's that?
I said, let's wait, please.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. Okay, Representative Sullivan. Anybody else say that we should wait?
Yes, I do.
Okay, all right, then we will wait, because I think it's maybe time, we should look this carefully, especially with this amendment we just approved.
And
All right.
also, Mr. Chair, if I could,
Yes.
I
Yes.
haven't heard an answer about the guaranteed price for on the sober housing.
All right, okay. All right. your question wasn't answered from Mr. Furlan?
That's correct.
Okay, Mr. Furlan, could you answer Representative Merchant's question, please?
Yes, the guaranteed maximum price is $2,670,282.64.
Right, okay,
Note that is not the total project cost. That's just the guaranteed maximum price for construction. Does not include acquisition of the facility, design costs, and many of the other costs that are required by NIFA as far as the escrow and the operating reserves that I mentioned earlier.
So the hard cost is 2.6 million?
Yeah, the GMP construction cost is $2,670,282.64.
And that does not cover what I call the soft cost.
Correct.
And we have an estimate of what the soft costs are going to be?
I do. I don't have those right at the tip of my tongue. I can look those up, but and I can possibly do that while we're doing the next presentation.
Can we have those available before the next meeting?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
okay, Representative O'Hearn, please.
Just a question. So for the city county manager, we can wait for another meeting to vote on everything. It's not going to affect anything tonight, correct?
That's correct. We can close on the loans, and then as long as the vote is done before April 30th, which is the deadline to apply to the New Hampshire Municipal Bond Bank for buy sale, then we should be in good shape.
Thank you.
All right, okay, thank you. All right, so any other questions? Are we ready to continue with the agenda? Okay, ratification of county leases per RSA 28:8-C. This is from the county staff. So Mr. Furlan, I don't know how you're going to handle this, but please go ahead.
I'm going to hand it over to Lionel Chute, and Lionel, I just have one sheet that I'm going to share my screen so that everybody on Zoom can see. There is a packet for those of us that are in the room.
Terrific. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm coming to you today because section 28.8D, 28.8/D requires the county convention to approve uses of county land, including leases. And so this is a lease process that we've been engaged with for, in some cases, quite a few years. My first lease process happened 5 years ago, at which time we awarded 4 or 5 leases to folks, primarily using fields that the county has. It was for a 5-year lease, and so those lessees are now up for renewal. And in addition, we have 2 areas that we would like to lease going forward that we haven't leased previously. And I'll just go through them quickly. There are 6 lessees that we are bringing forward today. In addition to these 6, we have 2 other leases which are not up for renewal until a few years from now. And so the first 3 leases that we're asking for approval on are renewals. The first is Lyle Perry of Cornish for 24.3 acres on the county farm for hay production. The second is Bruce Furland for 39.3 acres, 29.3 which is at the county farm, and an additional 10 acres at the Judkins property, as well as half of the calf barn. And this is for hay and pasture of beef cattle. And again, this is a renewal with the exception of the 10 acres on Judkins. This is what Bruce Furland has been leasing from us already. The third lessee is Kelly Simpson of Unity She has been leasing 11.5 acres of the Marshall Pond tract and 1 acre of the Little Sugar River for a total of 12.5 acres to pasture horses that she owns. And again, this would be a renewal. The fourth lessee in the list is Matthew McCall. The McCalls have purchased and are now living in the home that was Pat and April Bartley's, which is just down County Farm Road from the DOC. This is a 2-acre small field with a small unheated barn that Pat and April had been leasing from us. Matthew and his wife, Carrie, I believe, are simply interested in assuming that lease without any changes. They would be pasturing pigs, goats, and chickens, and using the barn as well for those purposes. The fifth lessee before you is Vincent Martin. He lives in Unity. He's adjacent to the county farm property where the DOT salt shed is on 2nd New Hampshire Turnpike. His land abuts the fields that are behind the salt shed, and he would like to lease these 2 fields for a pasture, hay, and vegetable production. Those fields were being leased by Kelly Simpson for horses, but she doesn't need these fields and she's passing on them. And the final lessee is Peter Hines, also of Unity, to lease the county apple orchards. We have 2 orchards, an older orchard that was probably established in the 60s and early 70s, as well as a newer fenced-in orchard just adjacent to that, which is a mixture of apples and pear trees for a total of about 1.5 acres, which would include the root cellar, which is just down maybe 100 feet below the orchards. He would like to use the root cellar for storing the apples over the winter, which was historically the way the root cellar had been used. And so that completes the suite of lessees that are before you now. All of these folks, with the exception of the renewals, which was built into their prior leases, the new lessees responded to an RFP, which was published and was done appropriately. And before I close, I just want to share that the leases that we would be using will be the same leases that we had prior with the renewals. All of our leases include the following elements. They have a stated purpose, which specifically identifies the land use that the lessee will be conducting. As I was describing earlier, apples and pears, hay, pasture, and so on. But it will limit their use of the land to those specific purposes. All of the leases prohibit the following uses without prior written permission: camping, overnight stays, fires of any kind, construction or improvements, herbicides or pesticides, roadways or paths, cutting of any vegetation, and there's no subletting or transferring of the leases as well. All lessees are required to provide and maintain adequate liability insurance. The county is also indemnified and held harmless in the lease. The county reserves the right of inspection at all times to make sure that everything is being done well. And finally, all leases include the requirement that all improvements be removed upon termination unless agreed to in writing by both parties. And so that ends my presentation, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chu. Any questions from the delegation about Mr. Chu's presentation?
Yes, Mr.
Are
Chair.
any questions? Yes, Representative Tanner, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Shute. I think it's great to have the land use that we have. I just have two questions. One was, are the apple and pear trees productive? And if so, what's the crop, the possible crop from those two?
The
orchards?
apple and pear trees are not especially productive. That we have been pruning them, but we've not done anything with the soil. We've not done any fertilization, and we've lost some trees over the years to voles and borers as well. The reason that we wanted to start leasing out the apple orchard is because it just doesn't feel right for the county to spend a lot of time and effort on the apple orchards. But they are a wonderful asset. And so we'd really like to find someone who can come along and take care of the trees and improve them. And that's our goal in leasing any of our lands. We're always trying to make improvements to the land, make the fields better, more productive, healthier, and so on. And that would be the case here in the apple orchards. What we've been doing historically is we've been sort of raiding the orchard in September and early October for apples to support our cidery, our public cidery. And Mr. Hines is aware of that use that we've had, and he's happy to share his apples with both the cidery as well as the nursing home dietary, if that's of interest to dietary. Historically, it hasn't been. But so we see in Mr. Hines a good partner going forward with regards to the apples and pears.
Thank you. May I have a follow-up, Mr. Chair?
Yes, please continue, Representative Tanner.
Thank you. I was just also wondering how you arrive at the amount, whether there's per acre or the
Yes.
value of the fields or whatever.
Because we do it as an RFP, we open it up for bids, for proposals, and folks offer different amounts per acre, per year. There are extenuating circumstances. Some properties include structures such as the root cellar or the half of the calf barn. In the case of our maple lease, we lease out the sugar house and so on. And so it's not really possible for us to set a fixed price. We could look at that in the future, but so far the way we've approached it is we've simply put out a call for proposals, and folks have come back to us with an amount per acre per year, and it tends to be fairly consistent. The values that we're currently looking at range from about $25 per acre per year to $40 per acre per year. Again, plus or minus the structures that we were talking about.
Well, thank you very much, and I really appreciate the job that you do. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Representative Tanner. Mr. Shute. Further questions from the delegation of Mr. Shute, please.
Mr. Chair, it's Representative.
Yes, go ahead. Representative Aaron, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And Mr. Shute, I have a question about what other land on the county land are you considering to lease out, or is this all?
Well, this represents 84.6 acres, mostly fields. And fields are a priority for us because we frankly don't want to spend the money involved in mowing, nor does it feel like a good use of the land to simply go and mow it periodically. We'd rather see it, serving more of a useful purpose. In addition to this 84.6 acres, we're currently leasing another 133 acres. 120.5 of that is the Claremont Beagle Club, which they've fenced in and use for running their beagles. And then we have the Maple lease as well. To answer your question, I don't anticipate any additional leases. The other fields that we have, we're managing deliberately to benefit wildlife. And so the management regime for that is quite different. We're coming along and brushing it out every 3 or 4 years.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Shute. Representative Aaron. Further questions from the delegation of Mr. Chu? Further questions? I don't see any. All right, thank you very much, Mr. Chu. Okay, now, if we want to vote on these, I did earlier, I mean, those of you who are present in the courtroom have a suggested motion. I did email the rest of you a suggested motion. And I was just wondering, would there be an objection if we did this in a block vote and approve, assuming unless you wanted to vote on each of the 6 leases individually? Is there an objection to voting them on them as a block?
I think we should do it as a block.
As a block? Okay, thank you, Representative Tanner. Any other comments or questions?
Representative Hearn agrees with you.
All right, okay,
Before we move forward, I have a question for the chair.
sure. Go ahead, please, Representative Merchant.
This is a 3-year lease. Have we resolved the conflict between the county and the town of Newport in regards to the lease? Are we getting into a lease that would cause a problem if the conflict between the county and the town of Newport has not been resolved?
I think you're talking, this is the lease for the conservation area, not the courthouse.
Thank you. You're right.
Oh, yeah, thank you for that question, Representative Merchant, and that clarification, Representative Tanner. Yeah, well, we're going to get into that in a minute, Representative Merchant, on that issue.
Thank you.
But right now, these are the leases that Mr. Shute has presented us. So unless there's an objection, I would entertain a motion to approve all 6 leases as a block.
I so
I have a-
move.
Okay,
Representative
Representative
Tanner.
Tanner makes the motion. Do I have a second on that motion?
Second.
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 Representative Oxingham. All right, thank you.
Thank
Motion by
you.
Representative Tanner, seconded by Representative Oxingham to approve, and and I will read the motion so we're all clear on what we're voting. In accordance with RSA 28:8-D, paragraph 2, this is to move to authorize the Sullivan County Board of Commissioners to enter into lease agreements with the 6 lessees presented today, subject to final negotiations deemed to be in the best interest of Sullivan County by the Board of Commissioners or their designees. So is everybody clear on what we're voting on? These are all 6 leases. Okay, unless there's any questions or comments, I will ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Okay, starting with Representative Aaron,
Yes.
Representative Callum,
Yes.
Representative Gottling,
Yes.
Representative Merchant,
Yes.
Representative O'Hearn votes yes. Representative Oxingham,
Yes.
Representative Rollins.
Yes.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
And Representative Smith,
Yes.
Representative Pillsbury,
Yes.
Representative Stapleton,
Yes.
Representative Tanner,
Yes.
my screen is-
Remember Representative Sullivan, please.
I know, I just, my phone is,
Okay, sorry. Okay, I understand.
so Representative Sullivan
Yes.
and Representative Cloutier.
Yes.
All 13 vote yes, no nays.
Okay. All right, 13-0, the motion passes. Thank you very much, Representative O'Hearn, for calling the roll. All right, we will move on to the next item this is the lease of the courthouse. So before I will turn it over to Mr. Ferland, if you could explain, please, the situation.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Chair. I'd like to provide a little bit of background. So as Representative Merchant noted, there's been an ongoing discussion with the town of Newport regarding the leases for the Superior and Probate Court here in Newport. The previous lease between the state and the county expired on April 30th, 2019. So for almost the last 2 years, we have not had a lease in place. And so we have not received any of the rent payments from the state. So that they've been escrowed And the state was happy to continue with that while we worked through our ongoing discussions with the town to get this resolved once and for all. However, we were recently approached by the state because they were concerned that if this is not resolved by early next year, we could all lose out on the back rent that's been accruing in escrow by the state, which would be a substantial amount of money because the lease provides for approximately $225,000 a year. So although they wanted to wait for us to get it resolved, partially because of the backlog in the court system because of COVID, we do not have a court date yet, and we do not know when that'll be. So the state's recommendation was that we sign this lease, which will allow the state to then pay us. We would then in turn escrow those funds while we complete the process with the town, and then we can appropriately divide the funding either according to the judge's settlement or according to negotiated settlement between the respective boards. So this really is primarily just to preserve the rent payments that are in arrears and establish the conditions going forward, because quite frankly, the state is uncomfortable technically squatting in space that they're occupying but not paying for. So this would benefit all three parties, both in the short term and in the long term. And then depending on the final results of this ongoing legal discussion, we could simply terminate this lease and generate new ones that reflect the ultimate settlement, again, whether that's dictated by the court or negotiated by the respective boards. As far as the mechanics of the lease, it's essentially a rinse and repeat of the previous lease. The state was not interested in amending the terms. For the 2 years that have already passed, there would be a 0% increase to the rental amount and a 1% increase recommended for year 3. So it's a base 3-year lease with 2 optional 1-year periods after that. But given that the rate that the state pays, it's quite generous compared to what commercial real estate is going for. So it wasn't something that I felt like was worth trying to haggle too hard over. It was just more important to get this done. If this motion passes tonight, the next step is for the Bureau of Court Administration to complete their coordination process through the Department of Justice and the AG's office, and then have it also approved by the Governor and Executive Council at a date to be determined.
All right, okay, thank you, Mr. Furlan. The questions of Mr. Furlan from the delegation. Yes, Representative Tanner, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Furlan, are we spending money on this legal pursuit of this question?
Not really. We are spending time. We have an assistant county attorney who works for the county attorney who has been our legal representative. So we are paying him, yes, and it's work that he would be probably otherwise, where he'd be spending his time on other cases instead of the time that he's spending on this. But we're not paying a third party or external counsel for all of these discussions we're having.
Follow up, Mr. Chair?
Yes, please continue, Representative Tanner.
So my other question is, what is the, and you may not know the answer to this, but you said that this was very high rate per square foot for commercial space. Could you tell me what the average is like in Claremont of renting commercial space?
I don't have that information. I just know that I've been told that on Main Street in Newport, generally facilities are rented for much less than the $13.62, I think, per square foot that we're getting for this from the state.
So you're comparing it just to what's on the Main Street in Newport?
Well, I mean, yeah, I think that's the only comparable.
That's where the courthouse is.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, or that answer your question, Representative Tanner?
Yes, kind of.
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you. Representative O'Hearn, please.
Just one question, because based on Representative Tanner's question to the county manager, trying to put this politely, but so you're saying we're not paying for because it's in the county, but my question was, what experience does that person have? And that, are we getting what we're paying for, so to speak?
Oh, the assistant county attorney that's been working this?
Yes, does he have the experience to make sure that we're not going to have something come back and bite us?
Yes, he has extensive municipal law experience prior to his joining the assistant county attorneys or the county attorney staff. So he's a wealth of information and expertise in this area.
Okay, thank you.
All right, okay. Further questions, please?
Representative Tanner's question, I mean. for this
Oh, yes,
case,
go ahead, please.
$13 a square foot. Kathy Hubert tells us, the going rate in Newport is $3 and change. So it's $10 a square foot above what we're told by a reputable source is the going rate.
I would, Mr. Chair,
Yes, go ahead, please, Representative Tanner.
I would say that if you look at what the rental, for example, on that Verizon building on the corner, or whoever owns that, it's a lot more than $3 a square foot. So I'm just, you know, I know we're doing negotiations over this, but I think, you know, it's time to settle.
All right, okay. All right, thank you. Anybody else with members of the delegation have questions? Your Representative Ahern, did you have another question? Representative Ahern?
No, sorry.
Okay, all right, your hand's still raised. Representative Gottlieb, do you have a question? Okay, I'm sorry.
I heard two different figures for the per square foot in Newport. I thought I heard $3.10 and then I thought I heard $2. So which is it, please?
Neither.
Okay, what is it then?
Kathy Hubert told me that they were in the $3 range. The rate we're getting from the state is $13. And if you will look at the Dunkin' Donuts building, is one unit is owned by the people that is occupied, the people that own the building. And the rest of the building is 80% empty.
So this proposed lease uses the previous rate from when the last lease expired. So for the period of May 1st, 2019 to April 30th, 2021, it'll be $13.61 per square foot. From the period May 1st, 2021 to April 30th, 2022, the 1% increase will result in a per square foot cost of $13.75. Now, the state's leases are what they consider an all-encompassing lease, so that includes the cost of utilities. So that's just a net lease. And also custodial services are included as part of that. But even with those numbers included, we feel it's a much more generous lease payment compared to what the market is here.
Mr. Chair, may I ask a question? I think you're frozen. So I ask the question, I guess. So what is Newport feel that they want to ask per square foot for that building?
I can't answer that question. I don't know.
If
It's
the
obviously-
chair, hold
Excuse
on,
me.
if the chair is not present, then
Okay.
the vice chair takes over.
Okay.
Your internet problem. I'm sorry, Representative Ahern, go ahead. You had a question or comment?
Well, I do have a comment, and I will make it
Sure.
plainly, is that I was not. No, go ahead and take over.
All right, okay, go, Representative Ahern. Any other questions or comments from the delegation before we vote on this?
One quick
All right.
question. Just be certain that I
Mr.
understand.
Chair?
Yeah, okay, yes. Who's Representative Ahern?
No, it's
Representative Spilsbury?
I'm sorry, Representative Spilsbury, go ahead, please.
So as I understand it, Mr. Furlan, there are 2 years of back rent unpaid at $225,000 per year. And if we authorize this tonight, it places the state in a position to immediately transfer $450,000 to the county, which the county will put in escrow, and prospective payments will be received and placed in the same escrow account. It sounds like that strengthens your position. Go ahead and wind this thing up.
Yes, while I can't comment on the strength, it just benefits us because the money will be there. We won't risk losing it, and that would hurt both us and the town.
It
And it just,
eliminates the risk of pursuing the state or the state.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Representative Spilsbury. Further questions or comments from the delegation about this item?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Representative Tanner, please.
I didn't hear clearly what Representative Spilsbury said, but did you say that the money was going to come from the state to the county to be held in escrow until it's settled, so that it will be in our purview rather than paying the rent, back rent?
It's
Is that what happens?
I'm stating exactly what I had said until the last phrase. I believe Mr. Ferland has confirmed my understanding that all past due rents totaling about $450,000 will be transmitted from the state and will be in the possession of the county.
Whoops, and not pay off the back rent.
We don't pay, the back rent is owed to us by the state. The state pays to rent the space. And since April 30th of 2019, they have not been making those payments. They've been setting the funding aside pending resolution of the ongoing discussions. So the state would pay the county would then hold the funds until the dispute is resolved.
Okay. All right, thank you. Does that, answer your question, Representative Tanner?
So just to follow that up.
Go ahead, please.
So the county hasn't been paying Newport either.
That's correct. We have not received any of the rent. So the way it used to work was we had a revenue sharing agreement where we jointly shared both the expenses and the revenues, but because there's been no revenue, we haven't had anything to share, which is why we recommend setting these funds aside in escrow until everything can be settled.
Okay. All right, thank you, Mr. Ferland. Thank you, Representative Tanner. Further questions or comments from the delegation, please? All right.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Representative O'Hearn, please.
To the county.
Representative Merchant, I'm sorry. The sound is, I'm having trouble getting to.
I know we look alike, but we're not.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. My sound isn't very good tonight. Go ahead, Representative Merchant.
So receiving the money and putting it in escrow makes sense. However, my concern is there any downside to it with the town of Newport? Does it give them a better option legally to justify their case if we have the money coming into the county? I just don't understand what the downside is. If I see the upside, what's the downside?
We don't think there is any downside. I mean, we thought this over quite a bit in consultation with the county attorney and his staff, and also the state of New Hampshire. I mean, really, the downside is we all lose the money if this drags on too long, and so that's really the main concern.
Okay, thank you.
Prior to this most recent development, the state was simply not interested in entering into a unilateral lease with the county, knowing that this dispute was ongoing. So it was the state that approached us with a much different approach, and that was very recently.
So basically, the state's willing to give us the money in escrow, even though they realize the conflict has not been resolved.
That's correct. And they to be clear, they're not dictating anything in terms of the escrow in this lease. The lease is silent on that. That's just something that we wanted to put into the motion language to make it very clear to the public as well as to the town of Newport that we're not doing anything underhanded with this. This really is all about expediency and being pragmatic and making sure that we capture those dollars and secure them so that we don't risk losing them. And then again, that's driven by an unknown timeline with the court system, just the way things have been over this past year. We have no projected date when this issue will be heard. We have no idea. So the thought was, let's be proactive. Let's get this done, and then that will be resolved in due time, and then we can go from there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Merchant. Mr. Furlong. Further questions, comments from the delegation, please? Okay, if I see no further questions or comments, as I said, I have a motion. Some of you are there in the courthouse have the motion, and I think the rest of you I emailed. And I don't know whether, if someone would like to make a motion, a second, at least we could debate this issue.
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion, Stapleton.
Okay, go ahead, please, Representative. And could you read the motion, the suggested motion, please, Representative Stapleton?
Mr. Chair, a motion. In accordance with RSA 28:8-D, paragraph Roman 2, I move to authorize the Sullivan County Board of Commissioners to enter into a lease agreement with the state of New Hampshire for the Superior Court and Probate Court located at 14 and 22 Main Street, Newport, New Hampshire, subject to final negotiations deemed to be in the best interest of Sullivan County by the Board of Commissioners or their designees. Proceeds from this lease shall be held in escrow by the Board of Commissioners, consistent with NH law pending resolution of the related legal dispute.
Okay, thank you, Representative Stapleton. Do I have a second on that motion?
Sullivan seconds.
Second, who seconded the motion, please, again?
Sullivan.
Sullivan.
Representative Sullivan, thank you very much, Representative Sullivan. Okay, are we ready for the vote on this motion? Any further questions or comments before we take a vote? All right, seeing none, Representative O'Hearn, could you please call the roll?
Yes, I can. So Representative Aaron,
Yes.
Representative Cowell,
Yes.
Representative Gotling,
Yes.
Representative Merchant.
Yes.
The clerk votes yes. Representative Oxingham,
Yes.
Representative Rawlings,
Yes.
Representative Smith,
Yes.
Representative Spilsbury,
Yes.
Representative Stapleton,
Yes.
Representative Tanner. Representative,
No.
Okay, no.
Representative Cloutier.
So yeah, got Representative Sullivan first. And I'll go
Yes,
last. Thank you.
Representative Sullivan
Yes.
and Representative Cloutier.
Okay, yes.
So
All right, the result.
Oh.
All right.
I'm reading it. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, yeah, okay, go ahead, please.
So 11 yeses and 2 nos.
2 noes, all right, okay, all right, thank you. Representative O'Hearn, okay. Yes, yes, go ahead.
For the 2 no's, I only heard 1 no from Representative Tanner.
Okay, all right, thank you. Representative O'Hearn, who was the other no, may I ask?
I'll go back and look, but I was writing it
Okay,
down.
sure, okay.
So maybe
Mr. Chair, have them state their no, please.
Okay, who besides, anybody besides Representative Tanner vote no? All right, so everybody else was a yes?
so I apologize.
Okay, it happens. Thank you, Representative O'Hearn. I've made those same errors when I've been a clerk. Okay, thank you. So the result of your vote is 12 yes, 1 no, the motion carries. All right, thank you. Now we have some minutes. We have the December 18th, 2020 delegation minutes. I don't, hopefully you've had a chance to look at. I will entertain a motion to approve those minutes by the delegation.
I so move. Representative Oxenham.
All right, thank you, Representative Oxham. Do I have a second on that motion?
Second.
Which minutes are we?
Is that Representative Aaron? Okay, Representative Oxenham moved, Representative Aaron seconded a motion to approve the December 18th, 2020 delegation minutes. Are we ready for the vote? I believe we will have to have a roll call vote on this. So Representative O'Hearn, when you are ready, please.
I'm turning the page. Hold on.
Sure, yeah, take your time. Take your time. You're doing a great job. It's not easy.
Okay. So Representative Aaron,
Yes.
Representative Callum,
Yes.
Representative Godwin,
Yes.
Representative Merchant,
Yes.
Representative Hearn votes yes. Representative Oxingham,
Yes.
Representative Rollins,
Yes.
Representative Smith,
Yes.
Representative Pillsbury,
Yes.
Representative Stapleton,
Yes.
Representative Tanner,
Yes.
Representative. Hold on. Sullivan.
Yes.
Representative Clear.
Yes.
We all vote yes.
Okay.
13.
So that was unanimous, right, Representative O'Hearn?
Yes, it was.
Okay, thank you very
Unless-
much. I think
unless
we're
I
all
got it
getting a
wrong.
little, okay, getting a little punchy. It's getting towards
Yes,
a long
we are.
day.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Representative O'Hearn. Okay, now we're going to go back to the item number 6. I think we've had the public hearing. We've had some concerns, but I would like to schedule a second delegation meeting. And we have to have it within the next 14 days because we have 2 bonds, one on the Sullivan County Healthcare and the other in the sober housing unit. So I am, and we got 14 days because I think this is such an important issue. But before I set a date, I would like to call on Representative Gottlieb, the chair of the Executive Finance Committee. And by the way, I don't know if the delegation, probably the EFC, you should approve all those minutes, but it's up to you, Representative Gottlieb. But I question whether you'd like to have a meeting first to review these proposed items that include a bond, your committee.
Representative Cloutier, you go ahead and set your meeting and I will set mine previous to that.
Okay, so you will follow me, in other words, depending on when we set the next delegation meeting. Is that what you're saying?
No, I will probably precede you.
Oh, you will precede me. Okay, all right. Okay, all right. And the minutes you want to take care of amongst yourselves?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that may be a little bit easier. All right, so anyway, I'm just wish to select a date for the meeting. And I know we are all busy people, but I was wondering of a date. I think the deadline, and Mr. Ferone, correct me, you said 14 days from the date of this hearing. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So that would be on April, I guess it would be Tuesday, April 27th. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, I just want to be sure. And again, we have to have a 2/3 vote. So that means if all 13 of us are present, that means 9 members of the delegation have to vote in favor of both bonds in order for them to pass. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, I just want to be sure that
Can I-
everybody in the delegation was aware of the situation.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Representative Merchant, please.
is it 2/3 of the delegation or 2/3 of the delegation is present?
I believe it's 2/3 of the delegation that is present. I mean,
That is
if it's
correct.
2/3 of the total, I guess that would be 9.
It's the 2/3 of those present, as long as there's a quorum.
Okay, so 2/3 of those present, is that again correct, Mr. Ferland?
That's correct.
Okay, so in other words, if 13 of us show up, it will take 9. If 8 of us, excuse me, if 13, yeah, it'll take 9. If only 12 of us, let's say, show up, it will only take 8. Is that correct, Mr. Ferland?
That is correct.
Okay, and depending on the number, it goes down. Okay. So I feel these next 2 issues, especially the nursing home, because we have not had a change in the nursing home facility in 25 years since 1996. It's such an important issue. So is there any date? I mean, I've got some suggested dates. I mean, I don't know if anyone would prefer an evening. I suppose even we might even consider during the day if that's easier for some folks, but I realize some of us work and some of you have committee commitments. Otherwise, I'm going to throw out some dates.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, go ahead, please, Representative Gottlieb.
is that it must be within 2 weeks or it cannot be before 2 weeks?
My understanding is unless Mr. Ferland, you can correct me, it has to be within 14 days. So in other words, if we decide to have another meeting within a week, that's legal, but we have to do it, I believe, as I understood it, by April 27th. Is that, again, is that correct, Mr. Ferland?
Everybody see
Question for the chair.
Yes, all right, go ahead, Representative O'Hearn.
So there was a shared video put up that's taking away from your discussion. So I'm just like, I understand that the reason why it was put up, but at the end of the day, that was put up without the chair knowing it was put up. So I would ask that we be taken down so that we have a discussion. I understand that the reason it was put up is because of the 2/3 vote, but we're done with that. Let's move on.
It's also put up because of 14 days. So if you want me to read it out loud, I can read it out loud. I think it would eliminate a
No,
lot.
with all due respect, County Manager, I
Okay,
understand that, but it was put up and it was not announced that it was being put up. And it takes away from the discussion of the delegation, so.
Okay. Well, okay, so, I mean, I think Mr. Ferland, you're just trying to be helpful, right? So we understood what we needed to approve both bonds, right? A 2/3 vote. You posted an RSA.
Mr. Chair, with your permission, I'd like to display RSA 3310 as it pertains to the 14-day requirement and the 2/3 voting requirement.
Okay. All right. Okay. So is everybody done with that slide? And then we can move on to have a discussion when we're going to have the next delegation meeting. Okay. Thank you very much for your concern, Representative O'Hearn. So a date, I mean, I was thinking of having maybe a 6 or 6:30 meeting sometime, maybe the end of next week. Say, let me see, maybe Thursday, the 22nd at 6:30, or, I mean, you could even do Friday if we wanted. I know, but I said that's a possibility. Either maybe Wednesday, we could do Wednesday the 21st or Thursday the 22nd at, let's say, 6:30. I mean, I throw that out.
I could do the Friday evening, but not the Wednesday or Thursday evening.
Okay. All right. What about everybody else? How is that? I know Friday sometimes can be difficult, but we've done delegation meetings on Fridays before.
Representative Cloutier.
Yes, go ahead.
Is there not a meeting for some of us on the 23rd?
The 23rd. Yeah, that's a Friday. I don't know of anything that's going on that Friday.
No, the 27th is when a number of us have that. There are a number of meetings that night.
Yeah, a number of meetings. That's Wednesday, the 27th. That's the last possible day. So we probably should stay away from that date.
Tuesday the 27th.
In that case,
I mean, another thing, I was thinking of Monday, the 26th, but I know some of you are tied up, I think, on Mondays.
I could do Monday.
I mean, okay.
One Monday I'm not tied up on.
Okay, which Monday is that, Representative Gottlieb?
19th.
26.
The 26th, okay. So I don't know, Representative Hearn, are you available? Because I know Mondays are bad for you in the past, so I just, you're very important.
What time?
Could we, if we say made it 6:30, would that be okay?
No, I have to work until 7, so.
Okay. All right, so let's try something else.
Mondays are always bad.
Bad, okay, I just wanted to be sure of that, okay? So could we do Friday, the 23rd, at, let's say, 6 o'clock, 6:30? Hopefully, I'm looking at hopefully no more than an hour, hour and a half, I hope, because we're only gonna probably have 2.
We have commitments on Friday.
Not Tuesday, not the 20th.
Can we do it Tuesday? How about a Tuesday? Nobody said the Tuesday, have they?
Yeah, but no, we can't do the 20th.
Tuesday, the 20th could be done.
I need your opinion.
If you do that, you're really pushing me to schedule an EFC meeting.
Sorry.
So Representative Ahern, could 7:30 on a Monday work?
Yes.
So could we go back to April 26th on a Monday at 7:30?
Yes.
Monday, the 19th at 7:30.
No, 26th at 7:30.
We can't do the 19th. It's not a date that's available because we have to advertise it 7 days before. So sure. Monday, the whatever.
Sounds like we're landing on Monday, the 26th.
Yeah, that's the one.
Is there anybody that can't do Monday, the 26th at 7:30?
Okay, I'm sorry, again, I had a computer problem. Representative O'Hearn, would 7:30 on Monday, the 26th be okay?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So is everybody, thank you very much, Representative O'Hearn. So is everybody able to do Monday, the 26th at 7:30? Is there a real problem with anybody on the delegate? Because everybody should be there barring an emergency or illness. I think it's really important that all 13 of us be there, so we take the vote regardless, and the entire county, the delegation is there.
26th works.
Okay, 26. There anybody who cannot make Monday, April 26th at this is at 7:30, right? Is that correct? All right. So unless there's an objection, I'm going to set the date for Monday, April 26th at 7:30 p.m. Okay? And hopefully we'll be done in an hour, hour and a half. Hopefully it won't take much longer than that, because I think by then we have made up our minds. Okay, is there anything else, any other business to come up? I guess actually we don't have the item of any other business. So unless you have any other questions on any of the actions we took, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Yes.
I'll second it.
Who made the motion to adjourn?
I'll third it.
Okay. Representative, I'm not there, so I can't see. So Representative Smith and someone else who was there made the motion in the second. Are we ready for the vote to adjourn?
Question for the chair.
Yes, go ahead, please, Representative O'Hearn.
So do we accept the minutes of the previous meetings?
Okay, we did the delegation minutes. If it's all right, and I just asked Representative Gottlieb if we could, she and the EFC could take care of their minutes. I think that I just wanted to save time, and it can get a little confusing because it would basically the EFC members just have to vote on these minutes. So
No,
unless
I
there's-
understand that. My question, there was 1 minutes that were the delegation minutes.
Yeah, we did vote on that, Representative O'Hearn.
Oh,
We approved them
okay.
earlier, unanimously. So I think
I'm
we're all
at-
set with our own minutes. And I thank you very much, because I do like to get caught up on all our meeting minutes. It's very important, but the EFC can, I think, take care of the minutes.
Okay. I'm
Okay,
all
great.
for it.
Thank you very much, though, for asking, Representative O'Hearn.
This is Sharon Kellum. May I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead, please, Ms. Kellum.
I'm asking of EFC Chair Gottlieb, what time will the EFC meet prior to that delegation meeting?
Oh, it'll be on a different day. We won't meet on that same day.
Okay, and you'll get with the staff at the commissioner's office on
yes.
what day? Okay, thank
Right.
you.
But first
Okay,
I have
you'll
to run it.
Okay, you'll decide among yourselves, the EFC, and it will be announced. All right, okay, thank you. Further questions or comments, because I have a motion to adjourn the meeting. So we're ready for the vote. All right, so,
Mr. Chair,
yes, Representative Merchant,
please
please.
remind people we have a caucus meeting after this meeting as well.
All right, okay, that's fine. Yeah, we'll have a and you're, okay, yeah, you'll hosting it, right?
Correct.
All right, okay. All right, so again, Representative Hearn, one final time, because we need to do, I guess, a roll call on this because of the pandemic. Could you please call the roll on the motion to adjourn?
I will try.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure you're doing fine. You know, you're certainly doing much better than I would.
Representative Hearn,
Yes.
Representative Cowell,
Yes.
Representative Gotling,
Yes.
Representative Merchant,
Absolutely.
Representative Hearn, yes. Representative Oxenham. Ooh, Representative Oxenham.
Maybe she left, I don't know, but okay.
Well, it may just be a deciding vote, so.
All right, you're absolutely.
We'll come
yeah.
back. Representative
Yeah, come back,
Rollins.
please.
Yes.
Representative Smith,
Yes.
Representative Spilberry,
Yes.
Representative Stapleton,
Yes.
Representative Tanner,
Yes.
Representative Sullivan,
Reluctantly, yes.
Representative and Chair Courier.
Yes.
So the deciding vote is going back to Gotling.
What?
Represent.
Oxenham.
Yeah, Roxy and Ham.
Gotling.
I voted yes.
Okay, so we're all in
If
favor.
Representative Oxenham left, then I guess looks like she's left us. Maybe she had to take care of something.
No,
So
she
you
just
got a
voted,
majority, 12-0.
So 13, yeah.
All right,
13
good. Okay, we
yeses,
got a
no
unanimous.
nos.
Okay.
We're done.
All right, good. All right, good. Thank you very much, everybody. And again, thank you very much, Representative O'Hearn, for doing that last vote. Okay, and we will meet again on April 26th at 7:30 p.m. Okay, thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Again, thank you very